Hello everybody, CoinKid here, and today I'm going to be showing you 5 facts that every coin collector should know. And if you're a long-time coin collector, you probably won't find this interesting, but this video is very good for beginner collectors. They're just good facts to know just about our history. They're mostly main facts, but if you still want to listen and stick around, I appreciate it, and let's go onwards. Let's start off with fact number 1, which is that the first US coin ever made was made back in 1792. And it was the half-dime denomination. So yes, back in 1792, which was 229 years ago, that was when the first US coin was struck. US coin, I mean United States coinage. Before there was colonial coinage, state coinage. But real US coinage is what we're going to be talking about here. No world coinage either. This is all for US coins. So, yeah. It was actually called a half dismy. I hope I'm saying that right. And they actually changed the name to half dime 2 years later in 1794. And it was made of 90% silver and 10% copper. It might have been 89% silver and 11% copper. And there's rumors out there that it was made by George Washington's Silverware. And the face value was 5 cents. You've probably guessed from the name half dime. And it was later replaced by the nickel, which is our current 5 cent denomination up to date. Fact number 2 is a well-known fact, actually, and a really good one to know and to learn as a beginner. And it's about World War II coinage. So lots of you will know that lots of crazy things happened during World War II with coins. We had nickels made out of silver and pennies made out of steel, which are magnetic. And yes, so the penny used to look like this. Steel. Back in 1943, World War II was going on, and the copper, which was being used to mint pennies, was needed for the war. The mint decided to mint pennies out of steel instead, and it is the only magnetic US coin ever made, so that's how you tell if a 1943 penny is plated steel or just real. It's going to be magnetic. And it was switched back to copper in 1944 because people kept mixing it up with dimes and quarters. And there is a really rare variety both those years that lots of people know about, which is the 1943 copper wheat cent and the 1944 steel cent, where what happened was some copper slid into the planchets in 1943, and in 1944 some steel slid into the planchets. There's about like 40 to 100 made for each of the years, and they all sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. A little while ago, a 1943D copper wheat cent sold for $1.7 million in a private auction, which is a record. And as for nickels, they're actually made out of a material called nickel. That's where they got their name. But during the World War II, nickels are made out of 35% silver and 56% copper. Pretty funny that they made them out of copper, since they needed copper for the war and they decided to stop making pennies out of copper. And that lasted 3 years, from 1942 to 1945, though it only started halfway through 1942. And in the beginning of 1942, nickels are still made out of nickel. There's also a known variety, less known than the 1943 copper cent and the 1944 steel cent. Just some 1946 nickels were struck on a silver planchet as well. Fact number 3 is less of a... It's a coin collector fact still, but it's just more like information for kids and just people that aren't coin collectors. But dimes, quarters, and half dollars are not made out of silver, and Sacagawea dollars are not made out of gold. So yeah, silver and gold are expensive. They don't make coinage from that anymore, but they actually used to make silver and gold coinage long ago. In fact, actually, it wasn't too long ago. and they only stopped making silver coinage in 1964 and gold coinage in 1933. But for a long time, from the late 1700s up to 1964, which is most of their time up to date right now while you're watching, and probably for the next few centuries, they made dimes, quarters, and half dollars out of 90% silver, and early on, in some of the years, 89% silver and 11% copper. But in 1964, silver became too expensive, and they changed the metal to clad, which was cheaper, and it's still the metal today. Same with dimes, and same with half dollars, but for half dollars, they decided to make them out of 40% silver rather than 90% from 1965 to 1970, where silver kept going up, and then they just changed the half dollar to full-on clad, which is what they are today. Though half dollars aren't made for circulation anymore, which is a fun fact. They stopped making them for circulation in 2002. But the dollar coins are actually made for circulation. They're just hard to find for some reason. They aren't spent much. As for the gold coins, they made gold coinage from the late 1700s as well, up to 1933. The gold coinage, gold was expensive back then even. So it was used for the bigger denominations, like $20 gold coins and other ones, which we'll get into later. And it only lasted until 1933, in the earlier years of the Great Depression, where gold price jumped, nearly doubling. And they had made a lot of 1933 gold coins, which they had to fully melt down and just stop. And they stopped making them, took them all out of circulation, and by 1934, maybe 1935, they were all gone. Fact number 4 is that there have been 16 different denominations across time in U.S. coinage. 16. Today there's only 6, which are the penny, the nickel, the dime, the quarter, and the half dollar, and the dollar. But there are 10 denominations that were discontinued long ago, and a couple extra bonuses as well, which I'll get into at the end. But from 1793 to 1857, they made a half cent, which is literally half a cent. 2 half cents make a cent. From 1864 to 1873, pretty short period, I think that's only 9 years, they made a 2-cent piece. From 1851 to 1889, they made some 3-cent pieces. At first, I made them out of silver, and they were super small, smaller than a half dime, which is smaller than a dime. So it was probably half the size of a penny. But then they switched them up to nickel and made them the size of either a dime or a penny or somewhere in between like that. And yeah, you heard it. They made half dimes. You also heard that in the first fact. They had half dimes, which were later replaced by nickels. Half dimes were made of silver and were smaller than a dime. Then the denominations start jumping up quickly. They made a 20-cent piece, which actually had the shortest run. They only made them 1875 and 1876 before they took them out of circulation because they were too similar to a quarter. They were only a bit smaller than a quarter. They made them 2 more years after, 1877 and 1878, but only proved to sell to collectors back then. And those are super rare, as well as the 1876 Carson City 20-cent piece, which is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Next up from that, the big jump goes up to a $2.50 gold coin. Yep, $2.50 put into one coin. It was the size of a penny and made of gold. That's the bigger denominations, and it was called the quarter eagle. Then there was a $3 gold coin, a half eagle, which is a $5 gold coin, an eagle, which is a $10 gold coin, and a double eagle, which is the highest, the $20 gold coin, which they stopped making in 1933. Actually, some of the denominations they stopped making earlier on in the 1800s. But there are some bonuses. They did make large cents. So large cents are just regular cents, except they're bigger than a quarter and smaller than a half dollar. They made them in the half cent era from 1793 to 1857. And then they switched to small cents that same year, and the year before as well. They were testing out small cents in 1856. And small cents are what we have today. The other bonus is the gold stella, which is a $4 coin, which they made in proof, and they were gonna make for circulation, but they ended up canceling it. And those are worth millions of dollars today. The highest one, the highest ones ever sold for, I think, is near 2 million, maybe above that. And multiple have sold for over $1 million. There was also a gold dollar, which I'm not sure the size of that. I think it was smaller than a dime, but it was just a gold dollar made of gold, and they made it at the same time as the silver dollars. Dollars used to be made out of silver and used to be massive, way bigger than a $half. But they stopped making those that size back in 1978. Then they made the small dollars from 1979 on. The final fact, which a good collector will definitely know, is that all coins aren't made in one place, in one building. There are actually 4 current mints. Mints is what they're called, by the way, where they make coins. There are 4 current mints, and there have been 8 different mints throughout history, not counting the one in Africa or the one in the Philippines. But there have been 8 different US mints. So let's get right in. There's ways to tell where the coin is from, and a coin has a mint mark on someplace on the coin where it'll tell you where it comes from. If it's a D, it's for Denver. If it's an S, it's for San Francisco. And if it's a W, it's for West Point. If it's a P, it's for Philadelphia. And if there's nothing, it's from Philadelphia as well. The reason why Philadelphia has taken over nothing is because it's actually the first mint ever. And there's actually 4 other mints that closed down a while ago, which is the New Orleans Mint, which has an O mint mark, the Charlotte Mint with the C mint mark, the Carson City Mint in Nevada with the CC mint mark, double C, and the, I hope I'm saying this right, Dahlonega Mint, which has a D mint mark. And you may recall that Denver also has a D mint mark, and you might be wondering, how do you tell which coin is from which mint? And there's an easy way to explain it. The Dahlonega Mint closed down before the Denver Mint opened. They operated at different times. So, if you know the time periods, which I'm not exactly sure, but Dahlonega Mint only made gold coins. So if there's a D on a gold coin from the 1800s, like 1850s, 1860s, 70s, maybe even 80s. I'm not even sure about 70s, but that would be Dahlonega probably. And if there's a D on like 1900s gold coinage and just all other coinage, it would be Denver. And that's really it for the US mints. And that's it for this video. Those are my 5 facts. I chose them myself and wrote the whole script myself. I wanted to give my point of view for these 5 facts and my point of view for which 5 facts should be the most known. And I appreciate you watching. Thanks for making it all the way to the end, and see you guys next time.